Hey everyone, I'm Andy Shama from FloMarching, and today we have a very special interview for you as we prepare for the 2024 DCI Summer Tour. Earlier this year, the Bluecoats and Sunlux announced a unique two-year partnership for the upcoming Drum Corps International seasons. We can't wait to start pulling back the curtain of this collaboration, but first I think I should tell you that you can actually watch the Bluecoats debut their show on FloMarching exclusively live on June 29th in the Bluecoats opening night community celebration. You're probably familiar with the work of John Vanderkoff as an artistic designer with the Bluecoats for the last decade, but you may not know so much about Sunlux or founder Ryan Lott. Just a quick intro, Sunlux is a three-piece experimental band made up of Ryan, Rafik Batia, and Ian Chang, and they've described themselves as a sort of sonic test kitchen. 2022, the band actually received an Academy Award nomination for their work on the film Everything Everywhere All at Once. We're joined by John and Ryan. So first, I just kind of want to go to how this all got started, and where this all began. So who kind of reached out to who, and when did this kind of come to fruition?
I believe the way it all went down is Bluecoats had at one point licensed a piece of music, a piece of Sunlux music, and so definitely they were on the radar. And my manager, Michael Kaufman, who lives in Indianapolis, was actually at a performance at Lucas Oil Stadium, and saw Bluecoats, and immediately, I think, in his brain, he thought this would be an amazing. There's maybe something amazing here with respect to a deeper collaboration than just like, hey, can we license your music and reinvent it? Like, what could we do to take it to the next level? And I think that he saw Bluecoats would be the perfect fit for that. And it after we started discussing it, it seemed like maybe the feeling was mutual.
Yeah, John,
Yeah.
what is your perspective? What was that like to kind of like bring these minds together and just get something started?
Well, it was exciting for sure. So that was cool that he was here. And honestly, it was at DCI finals. I had heard a little bit of buzz during the summer about some possibility. And then we were at finals in the Bluecoat suite, and Michael was there. And that's when I met Michael. And of course, at the same time, I was talking to Michael. It was a great conversation when he was texting with Ryan, and Ryan was responding. And it's just like, oh, well, this feels right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this just feels like there's all kinds of energy here and possibilities. And yeah, it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, awesome. Ryan, I want to go back to like, what's your experience working with marching bands? We've seen it sometimes come through like in the WGI scene and other places, but what is it? What is your experience with the marching world, and especially at this level?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have no experience in really anything even adjacent to marching band. I grew up as a pianist, and uh, was a terrible sight reader. Still am. Yeah, so I never had an opportunity to play in large bands. I think the whole concept of a large ensemble of people, whether it's a band or orchestra, is intoxicating to me. It's super exciting. As a composer, I'm constantly writing for large ensembles, but I've never been able to participate myself, and so I have a little bit of like, there's a little bit of like jealousy and also a fascination that goes with just kind of being looking from the outside in. um, I love the medium, and I love the particular disciplines of choreography and movement, and the intersection of movement, of coordinated group movement, and quite sophisticated uh, music that there are like there's a marching tradition, musical tradition that um, that incorporates what, like, would, it seems to me like on paper would be like impossible, like these, like, it's very sophisticated, coordinated, in particular rhythmic figures that like I would never dream of like handing to an orchestra, right? Even to like a gifted set of like orchestral percussionists back in the back. And so so I've always had my eye on marching bands, and I've seen the integration of, in particular, brass and percussion forces employed in creative ways in pop productions. Some of my most like vivid musical memories of things that like just blew my mind as a younger person, watching Prince at the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
for example. And then recently, in recent years, I've had the honor of having several pieces of Sunlux music performed by different bands around the country, and witnessing my songs, our songs, our songs, become transformed for the medium, um, and kind of seeing the potential for, man, just like what you can do. With a skilled, highly trained, skilled marching band is just like, it's totally mind blowing. Completely off, to be honest, completely off the radar of what I assumed was possible. Yeah, so now I see the potential to take my experience to the next level. No, I'm not going to be on the field marching, but hey, I'm happy to be involved in the process of creating something like super special. And I really want to learn a lot too, honestly.
John, I want to come over to you. What was
Yeah.
it like, or what has it been like as you kind of like are in the research process and the
Mhm.
learning phase of like how you can incorporate and you're going to have to be displaying this visually, this music and these sounds and this just like identity that Sunlux has.
So a couple of things to that. First of all, like I've been a fan of Sunlux probably since it's just I think the world that I live in. Like there's a lot of dance in my life besides drum corps and things like that. And I know Ryan has a strong background experience and all that. So it's always been present. Sunlux and actually Ryan himself, in his music from well, so it's always been a part of me. And there's always been such a visual. I don't know why, Ryan, but there's always such a visual inspiration that comes naturally with it. It just seems to connect. So in thinking about this, I find so much of there's such an artfulness. It's a beautiful artfulness that Sunlux has. I say this hesitantly, but I mean in the most wonderful way. There's an accessibility, like you want to connect with the masses in a way while still maintain yourself. And to me, that was the combination. That was a connection with the Bluecoats because that's something that it's like
Yeah,
we strive for anyways,
yeah,
it's just something beautiful. And then when I listen to Sunlux music, the soundscapes that are created are so unique, like nothing I've never heard before. And I picture that in the arena that we get to perform in, which is it's huge. It's probably one of the biggest arenas of stuff. You know what I
yep,
mean?
yep,
A football stadium, not even greater than greater, bigger than what Prince was at. They
yeah,
take the middle, or Madonna took the middle, or you know
yep,
what I mean? Like this is the whole entire field.
yep,
And if you really listen to the stuff that they create, it just feels like to putting that music in space is going to be
yeah,
so cool. You know what I mean? I think it could open a lot of new opportunities, especially to work directly with them. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and in every scenario, like when I try to set out on a new project, like one of the things that I value the most is making sure at the core of every project is some kind of discovery or some kind of surprise. Because I have such limited experience with marching, I this is inherently is going to be a process of discovery for me. It's kind of weird though, because it's still music, it's my music, and it's forces that are in other contexts completely familiar, not just musically, but also even with movement. So I feel like it's a the potential is there for it to feel like I'm at home, but also in a brand new
Yeah.
place, and so I'm pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, this part of the season that we're in right now, as we do this interview, is very separate. No one's often together in one place, but once everybody does get together, the season really starts to feel like it's picking up a lot more. The energy is really palpable, and I know Ryan, you're going to be out with the core during the first parts of the season as they come together for the first time. What is that process going to be like when you're trying to get in there? What room for input have the Bluecoats kind of carved open for you in this 2024 production?
For me, this is like I'm feeling like this is a blank slate. And so, to my earlier point about discovery, I think even the process is something that we can discover. um, But I will say that like my first step would be to listen, and to listen in person, and to be there, because it's one thing to watch a video, or um to talk, about what's possible, but to just be there. And like, John, your point about, this being the scale of this being so massive, it's like, well,
Yeah.
you can't really capture it unless you're there. And
Right.
so for me, just being there in person with human beings, with this incredible collection of young people from all over the place, that's my like starting point, right? And I know enough to have some dreams, but how the process will work, I welcome input, and I welcome like ideas, but first and foremost, I just want to kind of listen. But I will say that I also see in this collaboration the unique opportunity to collaborate on a recording as well, on an audio
Mhm.
recording. And I think that one of the things that makes our collaboration unique is that we're not just talking about creating an awesome piece of music, an awesome arrangement that we can bring to that huge arena, but then what of that collaboration can we then distill into uh, uh, some version of a recording that then can live a whole different life in back in my world, in discography world, right? That to me is like, that's so sick. If we can kind of, I go to your world, we engage, and then we pull from that and come back into my world, and then we both have our cake and eat it too. It's kind of hopefully what's going to happen.
So, John, I want to help people understand kind of like what a typical design process is. So, I don't know if you can summarize that in a really short, like two sentences,
Gosh.
and then like how is this different? Because I know, having worked with you over the years, I know
Yeah.
you have a process, and you guys like to live in that process, and it helps really set the Bluecoats up for success so throughout the season. What does that look like for the 2024 year?
I think similar, but with just some more unique voices a part of it. I think just having the Sunlux look on things, you know what I mean? And their sound of things, and just that, like I spend some time thinking, well, what would they think of this? How would they look at this? Because they have such a unique perspective. I think it's such a unique perspective on how you approach what you do. And so it does absolutely, affect how we go about what we're doing. And like I talked about the space, but just the quality of sound, and the effects, not just like scientific visceral effects, but I'm just talking like human connection effects. I think that is something that's going to be, yeah, it already has affected how we've approached the thing. Like it's webbed through the entire show, as you guys will find out. As far as our usual process, I guess it's kind of the same. Every year it feels a little different to me, but I'm sure if somebody was on the outside looking in, it'd probably go, "Oh yeah, it's kind of similar." I don't know. You were there, so you could tell me, Andy. But it's that it's a whole bunch of us getting together, not a bunch, like about 4 or 5 of us, and we agree on things, on enough things, and then we come to put it together in person. It's that kind of process.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about like when I was in the 2014 production and we were just testing like Hymn of Axiom throughout
Yeah.
the winter camps. And it's like, we know something's there when the brass line plays it for the first time. And then, it's a whole other level once you get in front of an audience. Or even together in spring training and you're just, back in, and you just feel a little bit more like in the season and like in the moment. And it's just,
Yeah.
um, I guess like Ryan, what has it been like? I know you've had a lot of these things probably laid out to you, explained to you, stories told about what it's going to be like, but what to you sticks out the most is like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this thing, this, this idea to be portrayed in some way.
Honestly, surprise. I'm always,
Yeah.
I'm excited to be surprised, and in little ways, big ways. Anytime your music is interpolated, it's inherently surprising. And I think on this scale, I think it's just going. I just expect to be surprised. And my experience of music making, that particular concept of surprise, both as a maker and um, as a listener of music. It's something that I super, super highly value. So it sounds like a kind of a non-answer for me to say, oh, I'm just looking to be surprised. It's a very intentional part of my process and my philosophy with respect to making and listening to music. So just wanted to clarify that it's not a non-answer. It's a very intentional answer.
Well, and I think drum corps just like it's a medium that I feel like enables surprise in a way that a lot of the others don't, because the way the pacing of the shows work and just the lows, the counter the highs, and the way that you build into moments, it's such a natural part of the medium that
Mm.
it can just lend itself to be even more impactful. Unfortunately for you all, I think people are expecting a little bit of surprise from the Bluecoats, just knowing the last few seasons, and just people have really high expectations, but they love it. They really fall in love quickly. So I think
Mhm.
you guys will find out that it will work, but yeah, I think people are going to be on the edge of their seats, especially that first show where people see the Bluecoats production.
But isn't that so true of so much of Sunrock's music? Is that,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, is that aha kind of thing, where it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily a planned, I don't know. I don't seem to be, it doesn't seem like it was a planned thing, but I was like, oh my gosh, and then this, and then this, and then this.
Yeah, you know what it is, dude, is the way our brains work and process the way we process music. Um, we we look for our expectations to be fulfilled, and then when they're fulfilled, we get that jolt of great feelings, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So um, it's tension and release. When tension builds, we know the release is going to bring satisfaction. It's like it's the way our minds work. Now, so surprise is tricky, right? Because surprise is inherently thwarting your expectations.
yep,
So so if you can master surprise that supersedes or excels beyond the sensuous result of having your expectations met, then you can discover something really, really rad. And that's the
yeah,
kind of surprise that I long for in
yeah.
both music making, which is why improvisation is a big part of my um, uh, process early in the start. Even more so with Rafik and Ian um, when they entered the band. They are both incredibly gifted improvising composers, and they helped me sort of reclaim a lot of that aspect of myself as
Hmm.
well. Um, but yeah, this idea of being able to do something different than what you expect, but actually better means that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. You have this feeling of tension and release, but the release is actually also a surprise, and that's
Yeah.
really tricky to do.
So I want to move on to the future of the partnership. In the press release, it said that there are going to be some original compositions by Sunlux in collaboration with the Bluecoats, obviously leaning on what you learned from this experience this season. What can you tell us about what to expect from that?
Yeah. So I think you it's exactly what you just said. Is that I spend 24 listening and hearing the potential um, in the hands of the Bluecoats of Sunlux music, and then what can we create with that new knowledge that yields something even yet more special, and then just turn it to 11 by doing a recording collaboration of that material. So it's kind of, I see it as sort of like a three-part collaboration. This first step is hearing and experiencing the reinterpretation of existing Sunlux material in the hands of Bluecoats. And then the second step is then writing and developing new material with that experience as a foundation. And then finally the step of then documenting in a distinct iteration for a recorded medium for wide release, something that the whole world can hear.
It sounds great, doesn't
Yeah, it does sound great. I am
it?
excited.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to kind of touch on is just the fan expectations and like what are you expecting from the audience for this season, and what are you hoping to evoke too with it from an emotional standpoint?
Well, hopefully discovery. like Ryan said, hopefully it's, we do this in this activity. You're trying to find the next new thing, not just because that's what you do. It's because there's such a joy in that. I mean, it's like a little bit of living going on when that happens. And having somebody, a group that's so creatively amazing and connects with so many people, I mean, so different levels to be a part of our process. It's going to be pretty epic. Like, I think it's going to be really amazing for the audience to do. And what a great way to expand the audience of all
Mhm.
of us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? In a really cool and honest way. I just think it's rad.
yeah, 100%
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah, Ryan, for your audience, what are they gonna? I mean, they probably are used to hearing some different sounds coming in
Yeah.
every time you go off on a new project.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's like, it's true. It's a true Sunlux form, to be surprised by the collaboration. We've, performed with orchestras. We've, performed with, rappers, jazz musicians, rock legends, experimental, sound artists, across the board, where we we ourselves as listeners and as makers are, omnivorous. And so, I think a prismatic output um, is something our fans hopefully come to expect. This feels like an anti up, of course, given the scale. Um, Many years ago, I did this thing back when I was still a solo project, where I invited, people to record, to sing with me, and I set up this like special email account where I could, like, people could send me files of them singing something. Like, I created a demo, and they're supposed to like record themselves singing with me, and then I put it all together. It was like 300 voices or something, and I made this piece, called Remedy, um, and um, and it was like my only taste I'd ever had of like getting a huge group of people to do something together. And ever since, I've wanted to do something else that has just like that kind of scale of
Mm.
just everyone together. And so I'm pretty psyched. I think this is the moment.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining me and chatting about all of this. Like I said, we'll definitely follow up and have more conversations over the next few months. But I guess just leaving our audience with anything last thoughts. Where can people check you out and keep up with your latest info? Ryan, and then John, if you want to go after.
Yeah, so, we're on Instagram, Sunlux. I think there's an underscore between the two words, SON_LUX. And then from there, you can find our, independent pages. Um, we all have our own solo projects: Rafik Bhatia, Ian Chang, and me, Ryan Lott. We have, you can find us doing stuff independently, as well as collaborations with other, musicians. And we're not awesome about social media because we're usually too busy making the music. um, but that's the good news, is that we're always making. So yeah, you can always, keep in keep up to date on what we're doing. We have some really exciting collaborations, coming up, and some exciting projects. One of which is a pretty huge, thing that we can't talk about yet, but eventually we can.
It's going to be
Awesome.
great, though. Yeah.
John, how can people keep up with you and the Bluecoats over the
Oh,
next
well,
few weeks?
Instagram, all the forums, but Instagram, for sure is the best way. And we'll be putting out a bunch of more information, some, stuff as far as the show, I think, in the next few weeks. So that's kind of exciting and maybe a little different than we've been doing in the past. Yeah, and then just, off we go into spring training and get Ryan there and, make something, I don't know, new out of all this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Ryan and John, for joining me and sharing all of these insights into your collaboration with our audience. We really look forward to seeing how everything comes together, plays out on and off the field over the next 2 seasons. All right, thanks, guys. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye, Ryan.
The 2024 DCI season is shaping up to be a good one, so be sure to check out FloMarching.com and follow FloMarching on social media to keep up with the latest news and highlights, as well as more info on how you can watch the Bluecoats live and on demand. Don't forget, you can catch the exclusive live premiere of the Bluecoats 2024 show on June 29th in the opening night community celebration, only on FloMarching. Thanks for watching.